The sun disappears before you are ready. Wind cuts across the open ground. The temperature keeps falling, and there is no door to close. No furnace, no insulated walls, no supermarket full of food, no weather forecast telling you that the worst night of the year is coming. And yet, tens of thousands of years ago, families lived through Ice Age winters cold enough to freeze rivers, bury the ground in snow, and empty entire landscapes of easy food. They did it without knowing when the cold would break. So how did humans survive winter before permanent houses? We know they did because archaeological sites place humans in extremely cold parts of Eurasia, including glacial landscapes far north of the Arctic Circle. Modern humans were also using a cave in what is now Germany around 45,000 years ago during a severe cold phase, not merely during a brief warm escape. These were people operating inside cold steppe conditions. They did not survive because they were somehow immune to cold. They survived because winter changed almost every decision they made. Their answer was not one invention. It was a system. Shelter, fire, clothing, food, movement, and cooperation, all working together. The first rule was simple: do not let the wind reach you. Cold air is dangerous, but moving air makes exposure worse by continually carrying away the warmer layer of air close to the body. A shallow cave, a rock overhang, a riverbank cut, or even the sheltered side of a large boulder could turn a deadly wind into a manageable one. A few meters of position could change the entire night. Caves were useful, but they were never a universal answer. They could be damp, smoky, occupied by animals, badly positioned, or simply nowhere near the food. A good winter site needed more than a roof. It needed protection from wind, nearby fuel, access to water, and a realistic route to food. Where caves were unavailable, people could build. In Ice Age Eastern Europe, circular structures made from mammoth bones are widely interpreted as dwellings or shelter features. Most shelters were probably less dramatic. Wood, hide, grass, and brush decay, so a practical windbreak can disappear while stone tools and hearth remains survive. A temporary shelter did not need windows, furniture, or standing room. It needed to be small, low, repairable, and capable of trapping still air around sleeping bodies. Smaller spaces were also easier to maintain. People could also sleep close together on insulated bedding, using hides, dry plants, and one another's body heat instead of trying to warm a large, empty space. But shelter only slowed the cold. The second part of the system produced heat. The earliest known hearths are at least 790,000 years old. By the Ice Age, controlled fire was not a novelty. It was infrastructure. A hearth created a small artificial climate. Within a few steps, hands could thaw, wet hides could dry, frozen food could soften, and children could sleep. That circle of heat became the working center of camp. Fire performed several jobs at once: warmth, light, cooking, drying, tool making, and a safe place for the group to gather. But a fire was not central heating. Your front could be hot while your back remained cold, and smoke could make a poorly ventilated shelter miserable. The real work began before the flames appeared. Fuel had to be found, carried, protected from snow, and divided into pieces that would actually burn. A winter hearth consumed fuel continuously. A camp too far from usable wood could become dangerous, even if the shelter itself looked perfect. Someone also had to manage the fire through the night, feeding it, banking embers, limiting smoke, and making sure one mistake did not leave everyone cold before dawn. Fire was not a single tool. It was a job that never completely stopped. The third layer of protection moved with the body. Human skin is excellent for losing heat in warm climates and terrible at replacing the fur that most cold-weather mammals carry everywhere. A loose hide thrown over the shoulders helps. Clothing that closes gaps around the neck, waist, wrists, and legs helps much more by trapping warm air. That required work, scraping hides, softening them, piercing holes, cutting shapes, and joining pieces with sinew or plant fiber. Every useful garment represented hours of skilled labor before winter demanded it. Bone awls gave people a way to punch regular holes. Later, bone and ivory needles made closely fitted and more carefully constructed garments easier to produce. The earliest known eyed needles appear in northern Eurasia around 40,000 years ago, including finds from Siberia. A fitted winter outfit could be repaired repeatedly. One torn seam was not merely annoying, it was a hole through which heat escaped every hour. The torso was only part of the problem. The most effective cold weather clothing also had to reduce heat loss from the head, hands, legs, and feet. Clothing was portable shelter. Staying warm was only possible if the body had enough fuel of its own. Winter survival is an energy problem. The body must power movement, repair tissue, and generate heat at the same time that food becomes harder to find. A failed hunt in summer could mean hunger. A failed hunt during prolonged cold could also mean less firewood gathered, weaker clothing repairs, and poorer decisions. Hunger weakened the entire survival system, not only the hunters. Large animals could provide meat, fat, marrow, hides, sinew, and bone. One successful hunt therefore supported almost every part of the winter system. Fat and marrow were especially valuable sources of energy. A carcass rich in lean muscle but poor in fat was not the same nutritional prize. At Qasim Cave in Israel, evidence suggests that people stored animal limb bones and opened them later, delaying access to the marrow inside. The bone itself acted like packaging. Skin and tissue left around it helped protect the marrow until people were ready to consume it. Different groups could dry, freeze, smoke, cache, or delay parts of a kill depending on climate, season, and available materials. There was no single prehistoric pantry, and no method worked everywhere. Winter food was not only hunted, it was planned. The fifth strategy began before winter arrived. The best winter camp might be chosen months earlier. A valley with less wind, nearby water, accessible fuel, predictable animals, and routes that remained passable. Some groups moved with seasonal resources rather than defending one location all year. Mobility was not aimless wandering, it was a map carried in collective memory, updated through repeated journeys and shared experience. A strong winter site combined several advantages. A beautiful shelter in the wrong place could still leave people without fuel, water, or animals. Work also changed with the season. People repaired clothing, prepared tools, processed hides, gathered fuel, and stored useful materials before deep cold made every task slower. Winter survival began in autumn. And none of this worked as a solo survival challenge. While one person gathered fuel, another watched children, another repaired clothing, another hunted, and someone else kept the hearth alive. The group also protected people who temporarily produced less. Children, injured hunters, exhausted adults, and anyone whose knowledge was more valuable than their physical strength. In winter, losing one person could mean losing an entire skill. No individual could personally rediscover every safe route, sowing method, fuel source, animal pattern, and shelter design. Survival depended on knowledge moving between people. Some cold-adapted humans also developed shorter, broader bodies that conserved heat. Biology helped, but bodies alone could not replace shelter, clothing, fire, food, and shared knowledge. So did people really survive winter before houses? The answer depends on what you call a house. They may not have had permanent walls, chimneys, or locked doors. but they built protected sleeping spaces, maintained hearths, tailored clothing, planned food, chose landscapes, and organized work. Winter did not make humans immune to cold. It made planning and cooperation unavoidable. Somewhere inside a small shelter, a child stayed warm enough to wake when spring returned.